January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Hello, this is Brox, and I'm talking with my grandma about Apple computers.
Hi, I'm Judy Harris. I'm Brox's grandmother. He calls me Nana, though. And I was the computer teacher at the school for my children from 1982 until 1998. And I basically invented the whole computer program that I taught from 1982 to 1998.
How was the access to computers at your school, and how did it compare to other schools?
Well, 1982, there were no computers any place in the whole school system at all. And our oldest child was very interested in computers, and so we bought him a TRS-80. It's in the slang as a trash 80. And he taught himself how to program, and I kind of learned a little bit about how to do it. Then I just volunteered my way into the school system because I thought all people in school should learn how to use a computer, to use it as a tool, like a pencil. Go to school and learn how to use a pencil to do your arithmetic. Well, I thought you should go to school and learn how to use a computer. But schools did not have computers at that point, 1982, at all.
The skills that your students learned, how many of those skills do you think are still relevant today with computers?
All of them.
Okay.
They learned how to, I taught them how to program, like to program a computer using the logo language. I taught them how to keyboard on the computer using letter invaders, and Mavis Beacon teaches typing. And I taught them how to use the computer in their classroom doing other things, like Oregon Trail for a social studies event, or number munchers. We used number munchers to practice multiplication skills and addition skills and all kinds of things like that. So all of them, everything that I taught, I think kids today are still using. I know my daughter still uses her typing skills that I taught her in computer class.
Were you the only computer teacher?
For the first 7 or 8 years in the whole school, yes, I was the whole computer teacher. I taught all 12 grades. The elementary school 1 through 6th grade came in once a week, kind of as art class, computer class, and they rotated around different things. We had no middle school computer class at all, and then the high school we developed the keyboarding. They did have a typing class. Well, we just took all the typewriters out and threw them away and put in computers, and I became the keyboarding teacher. But as the time went on, I trained all of the elementary school teachers to use the computers in their classroom, and then there was a dedicated elementary teacher, a dedicated middle school teacher, and I kind of taught them what to do, and then a dedicated high school teacher and a network administrator, which I was at that time.
Who paid for all of the computers?
The school basically paid for them, but we had a contest in Montgomery, Alabama, sponsored by the big grocery store chain there. The Bruno's grocery store chain had a red receipts bonus thing. So if you went to the Bruno's grocery store and you brought groceries for your family, like you did every year, they printed them on red receipts for a whole year. Turned in a certain amount of red receipts for a computer, they would award you a computer. So the school bought 24, and then we earned 11 computers for the classrooms with these red receipts, and I believe it was over $1 million worth of receipts. We counted them up every week, and the classroom that brought in the total amount of red receipts, the biggest for that year, got a box of popsicles for the week. So I basically bought 11 Apple computers for a box of popsicles for the school year. It wasn't even 52 weeks, just, September to May.
What were the biggest setbacks over the years in teaching that class?
I think the first year, when the kids had to share the computers, there was the first three children per computer, sharing a computer for the first year that I actually had a classroom. Before that, before we actually had a classroom, I took a computer on a cart into the classroom, and I just basically demonstrated things. And it was, one computer for 30 kids with somebody up there demonstrating something, some theoretical something. which was me, but it was the best I could do. And then I guess just the fact that they were depending on me individually, because there were no books, there was no lesson plans built in or anything like that. I just basically went in and invented things every week. So that it was kind of, and I was, when I left, they hired 4 people to take my place: a network administrator, a high school teacher, a middle school teacher, and I forget the other one. So it was like all of it was just depending on me. So I was the weak point of the whole thing.
So after you got like all of those Apple computers from the contest, did you use pretty much Apple computers the whole way, or did you use anything else?
We did Apple computers for the first half of my career there. Like for the first 9 years, that there was no such thing as an IBM computer. I mean, there were IBM computers, but they weren't personal computers. They were like for businesses and things. And in 1983 or 4, Apple promoted theirs as the first personal computer, and we bought just Apples, Apple IIe's. And then we set the classroom up with the Apple IIe's. And then we built a whole nother school building, and it was a series of 8 buildings around a big circle. And at that point we kind of switched over to IBM DOS type computers, because IBM was competing with Apple, and they lowered the price and they made standards that you could buy a inexpensive IBM DOS computer. And then all of a sudden Bill Gates developed the Windows thing, and Windows was a GUI, graphical user interface, that made it more like an Apple. That was the big advantage of the Apple, is the kids, it was kind of instinctive, a picture, and you could click on things. Before that, all IBM computers, it was just like a greater than sign or a less than sign, and you had to type something for it to make something happen, and that wasn't very natural. It's like trying to teach algebra to a 2-year-old or something. So we switched. We did all Apples for 9 years, and then we switched over to IBM. And then after I left, St. James School in Montgomery, Alabama became an Apple school. And they sent all of their teachers to Cupertino, California, where Apple was based. And they learned all about, Apple computers and how to integrate it into their school systems. And then, since they did that, since the teachers were trained and committed to it, Apple supplied every student in that school with an iPad or a laptop or the classroom setups. So it kind of went through both of them. We went all Apple, all IBM, and then all Apple. I think it was the principal, Melba Richardson. She just contacted Apple, and I think it was like a national program that Apple set up, and she contacted them, and it just happened. I mean, they probably signed up for it and stuff like that.
What were some of like the highest level of courses that you taught to maybe like the 12th graders, and like what did they use the computers for at that level?
I taught programming. I taught BASIC, which is an elementary computer program. And then I taught Pascal for 1 year. Now, there was a book. I actually managed to find a book for Pascal from the Lawrenceville School in Princeton, New Jersey, someplace in New Jersey. And it's a big white book with a red something on it, and I bet it's still in existence today. Taught Pascal. So the Pascal was the highest level and most advanced type class thing that I taught. But the basic programming was, I used the graphics. The Apples had graphic interface, and they learned how to draw pictures on the computer. But of course, with the picture, it was the Cartesian coordinate system with the X and the Y axis and where they met. And if you wanted to draw a line from 0, 0 to 45, 45 over here, you had to put a dot on each one of those programs, and you had to learn things like a for next loop, which is a programming thing, and an end, the ending of it, and then you could change the variable at the end of it and make it into a circle and all kinds of different things. We learned wild things. I taught, like the basic for next loop, and then they started playing with it, just changing this number to a variable and then running your variables through so that it was like a nested loop and things like that. Well, after when we built the new school, we built 8 buildings. They were a round circle. It was like a small college campus. There was an elementary building, there was a middle school building, and there were 3 high school buildings. And each one of those classrooms in those 8 buildings, it was under construction like in 1995, well before that, 92, 95, around in there. I made sure that each room in those new buildings had a RJ45 cable connection, so we could put a computer in each room as we needed or as we wanted it. The apples all stayed in the elementary school, and then we started getting new computers and putting them into classrooms. I didn't actually go into the new classrooms, but every year, like during teacher training years, there was always a computer something going on. And eventually, we built a computer lab that was all math. I called it the math lab. And there were 16 computers in there, and the math teachers, it was in the math department, so the math teachers could take them in and out and use it for graphing and things like that. There was no more wheeling it around because we got computers into all of the rooms. I do remember one of the parents asking me, why don't you get a wireless card? Well, back in 1995, a wireless card cost as much as a computer. I know now that costs like $45 and everybody has a wireless card. Well, back then they were like $1,200, and then it was the computer, $1,200, and then the wireless card was $1,200. And you still had to have some way of getting the signal out, which was the cord. You still had to have a cord. It wasn't wireless, and it was, even though somebody was thinking of it in advance, it was physically impossible to do it still in 1995. After I stopped teaching, I went to work for a help desk. And the help desk, I remember, was we went wireless at the help desk like in 2004. So it wasn't, it was like 10 years after we had built this campus with the wires into each room that it became wireless, which I'm sure they went wireless eventually, which was awesome.
Uh-huh.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks.